The conference room felt strangely empty once the lawyers left. For 6 hours it had been filled with conversation, numbers moving across screens, clauses debated, signatures prepared and revised. Now the chairs sat slightly pushed back from the table, coffee cups half empty, folders neatly stacked. At the center of it all was a single document with my name written across the bottom. I had just sold my company. $20 million. The number still felt abstract. For 25 years the business had been nothing but risk and long nights. I remembered the early days working out of a rented warehouse with one unreliable computer and a folding desk. There were months when I wasn't sure I could make payroll. And now, suddenly, it was over. The company belonged to someone else. I ran my fingers over the paper one more time before sliding it into the folder the lawyer had left behind. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I mostly felt quiet. As I stepped into the hallway and reached for the elevator, my phone rang. It was my sister. She rarely called during the workday, so I answered immediately. "Well," she asked. "It's done," I said. "The deal went through." There was a pause, and I expected congratulations. Instead, she said something unusual. "I need you to do something tonight." "What is it?" "Call your daughter," she said. "Tell her the company went bankrupt." "Very funny?" "I'm serious." The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. "Why would I do that?" "Just once," she said calmly. "Tonight. Tell her everything collapsed." I leaned against the wall of the elevator, still smiling. "You're joking." "No." Something in her voice made me stop laughing. It wasn't dramatic, just certain. "Why?" I asked. "I want you to see something," she said. The elevator reached the lobby. I stepped outside, sunlight pouring through the glass doors. "This sounds like a bad experiment," I said. "Maybe," she replied. "But trust me." I stood there for a moment thinking. My daughter had grown up comfortably. As the company expanded, our life gradually became easier, better schools, vacations, a house that was larger than the one I grew up in. I always believed she stayed grounded. Still amused by the whole idea, I made the call. She answered quickly. "Hey, Dad!" I took a breath. "The deal fell apart," I said. "What do you mean?" "The investors pulled out at the last minute. Everything collapsed." There was silence on the other end. "Are you serious?" "Wes!" The pause that followed felt heavier than I expected. Then her questions began. "What about the house?" "I don't know yet." "And the accounts, the investments?" "I'm still figuring that out." Her voice changed slightly. Not colder, but sharper. "You should have told me sooner that things were unstable," she said. "I mean, people are going to ask questions." I waited. She continued quickly. "This could affect a lot of things, Dad. My plans, my reputation." The words hung between us. I had expected concern. Something like, "Are you okay?" But the conversation moved somewhere else entirely. "I'll come by tonight," she said eventually. "We need to talk about what happens next." When the call ended, I sat in my car for several minutes without starting the engine. The sunlight on the windshield had shifted slightly. My sister called again later that afternoon. "Well?" she asked. "She's coming over tonight." "Good. You want to tell me what you think I'm about to see?" "You'll understand soon enough," she said quietly. That evening my daughter arrived earlier than usual. She walked into the house carrying her laptop bag. Her expression focused rather than emotional. "Okay," she said as she sat down at the kitchen table. "Let's go through this." "Through what?" "The damage," she clarified. She began asking questions quickly. What assets were protected? Which properties might be vulnerable? Whether the company debt could affect family accounts? Her tone was practical, efficient. It sounded like someone reviewing a financial report. At one point she paused and looked at me carefully. "This is going to change things," she said. "How so?" "Well, people assume certain things about us." I nodded slowly. "And if those assumptions disappear?" She hesitated. "Then I might need to rethink a few plans." The room felt very quiet. Around 7 o'clock the doorbell rang. My sister stepped inside, carrying a bottle of wine. She looked at both of us and smiled politely. Dinner was calm, almost strangely normal. My daughter spoke less than usual, her mind clearly busy calculating possibilities. I watched her carefully, noticing details I had never paid attention to before. Not cruelty, not greed exactly, but a kind of quiet dependence on certainty. The belief that stability would always exist around her. Halfway through dinner my phone vibrated. I glanced down. It was my attorney. I stepped into the living room to answer. "Just confirming," he said. "The funds have cleared. The acquisition is fully completed. $20 million. Transferred and secured." When I returned to the kitchen, my daughter was gathering her things. "I should probably head out," she said. "I have a lot to think about." I nodded. Before she reached the door, I spoke. "The deal went through." She stopped. "What?" "The company sale succeeded." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "You said—" "I told you it failed," I said gently. "But that wasn't true." She looked from me to my sister. "You tested me." "No," I said. I observed. The silence that followed wasn't explosive, just uncomfortable. Eventually she exhaled slowly. "That's not fair." "Maybe not," I said, but it was informative. She didn't argue further. Instead she left quietly. Later that night I sat alone in the living room with the acquisition folder resting on the table beside me. $20 million. Enough to change almost anything. But the most valuable thing I gained that day wasn't financial. It was clarity. Money had built my company, but losing it, even in a story, had revealed something else entirely.